Crowley decided to act it out.
Alright,
I caught a
so, discovered this in my fucking fridge. Just some pasta and broccoli. And, I'm gonna throw this in the fucking trash. I'm out of milk. So if I'm out of milk, what's the point of the Oreos? Only had probably like 400 or 500 calories today, so I actually need to kind of up that. You usually don't want to eat less than 1,200. Yeah, not even intentional, just how it is right now. Energy going like this. Been like that all day. I've been fucking useless. I don't know about you guys. But I do need to invest in a mic, which I will do. One is on the way, if anybody cares. At least for when I work out, or when I walk around and do shit, I'll have like a lapel mic. Just try to like entertain people, entertain myself. So, if I'm a bit aggressive, it's part of my character for sure, but maybe we deal with emotions in a cathartic fashion by letting them out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I haven't committed an act of violence for quite a long time. So, now, I do have beautifully eloquent road rage. Yep. But that has more to do with where you're at. So, in my experience, okay, let's say you're driving around Austin, right? You begin to question if these motherfuckers speak English, right? Because you see the fucking signs like turn this way, do this, and they're just fucking dumb. And I thought about it and I was like, wait. Okay. Austin's full of hippies and communists and potheads, right? It's basically, Austin is 3 South Park episodes. It's Night of the Living Homeless. It's the one where they're smelling their own farts. And the third one is escaping me at the moment. But basically, it's the one where Cartman goes through the hippie jam festival. Those 3 episodes are in Austin. Okay, so it occurred to me that the reason people are that stupid in Austin traffic, they just don't know where they're going. They don't know how to drive. They're just dumb. They wake and bake every day. They're actually completely fucking stoned, right? Which may be necessary to get through the I-35 corridor now that I think about it. The I-35 corridor is so asinine that you have to be in an altered state of consciousness not to just completely snap and destroy everything. Then you have Houston, right? So if you've driven in Houston, like multiple people I know in the Houston area have told me, yeah, I got a gun flashing me in traffic, because Houston is on that gangster shit. Like, they don't fuck around there. When you go to Houston, make sure to write a will beforehand. Like, have your affairs settled. You never know. Now in Abilene, it's a different set of challenges. You see, you got these fetal alcohol syndrome, low IQ Christians that really don't know anything. And they're all fucking their cousins, and obviously that's where they came from. So you're going like 25 and a 35 at all times, 20 and 30. There's like, I mean, the roads don't make sense anyway. It's as if the civil engineer was on LSD when he designed the town. The roads themselves are completely unacceptable, as if ISIS is mortaring the town. That's how bad they are. They're getting fixed, but it doesn't matter when you don't have a drainage system because your town is pre-modern in every sense. So, yeah, I get some road rage. A, at the drivers, B, at the roads, right? Because I pay property taxes here, and I've paid property taxes in Abilene since 2013. Where does the money go? You know, this is one of those situations where I literally think it's getting snorted off the ass of a, high-class hooker. That's what the money's paying for, obviously. It's not paying for the roads. It's not paying for drainage. Where's it going? So, this thing I'm watching is called The Great Beast 666. It's actually on YouTube, I think. And it's about my favorite subject, Satanism. Actually, it's about Mr. Crowley, Aleister Crowley. And so I'm going to watch it and talk about Satanism.
And having administered a large dose of arsenic, I chloroformed it, hanged it above the gas jet, stabbed it.
Talking about killing his cat. He's a fucking asshole.
And when it had been pretty thoroughly burnt, drowned it.
Alright, so whenever I get down to hell, I'm going to have a conversation with him about that shit. Like, we're going to square up. And, so, hope Satan's got his boys back because I come for that ass, Aleister Crowley.
And threw it out of the window so that the fall might remove the night light. Operation was successful. I was genuinely sorry for the animal. I simply forced myself to carry out the experiment in the interests of pure science. Just as any young boy
The young Crowley grew to loathe the religious doctrines laid down for Reverend.
I mean, to be honest, our little moral centers don't really form until we're in our 20s. So, yeah, there's a lot of sociopathic weird shit the kids do. Obviously, we all know that that's a sign of future serial killers, you know. Because here's the thing. People that develop antisocial personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, where they end up is based on how they are raised. So there's the genetic component, and then there's the environmental component. So if you have the mental makeup of, let's say, Ted Bundy, but you're in an upper class family where you are pushed into finance and you go to an Ivy League school, you become CEO. So your tendencies towards low empathy and using people as objects, not ends in themselves, you're using people as means to an end, not as an end in itself. So you violate Kant's idea of ethics. Basically, you are going to be okay. So you're probably not going to be violent. Now, you take that same person and give him a stepdad that beats the shit out of him and gets drunk and beats mommy and all that, and add in some deprivation, relative deprivation of poverty, and you're probably going to get a violent offender. And in fact, that makes up the majority of people in our prisons. So obviously Crowley has those tendencies. I mean, he just utterly admitted it, so that's not surprising, right?
At the special sex school, Almost as much as he hated the cruel headmaster, he still continued to study the Bible, but in particular, certain passages, especially those in the book of Revelation. He became drawn to reading about the false prophet, the scarlet woman and the beast. And then one day, he came to a disturbing conclusion.
Well, it was just after I had been chastised by the headmaster for attempting to corrupt one of the other boys who visited my house during the school holidays. I can't remember how or what I had attempted to do. I was at that experimental age. But I remember it was around that time that I realized I had become obsessed and fascinated by those that were the enemies of heaven. My sympathies lay with them, and this fascination would remain with me for the rest of my life.
Details of the next few years of the young Crowley's life vary from biography to biography, but it was clear that there was no love lost between mother and son. The pious Emily Crowley was undoubtedly concerned over the ungodly behavior of her son, and would on many occasions call him a beast. The young Crowley reveled in this new.
Yeah, so clearly as delusions of grandeur, I've been called a beast in several contexts. They're not in that normal fucking context that you people were thinking of, but there have been people who have called me that for various reasons. Doesn't mean I'm, some kind of satanic messiah figure, but he was making his own myth, and that's my issue with Crowley. Is when you look at his writings, they're very gaudy and it's a put on. He's trying to write in the style of an ancient hermetic text to give himself the appearance of being arcane or having some knowledge, when in reality he's just fucking people in the ass and taking drugs. But, alright, so Satanism. He was a theistic Satanist. Different kinds of Satanism. People just think it's weird that this is the case, but it is. So you've got theistic Satanists who literally believe that Satan is... They either believe in the biblical story and they think that Satan is to be revered for it, or they believe that Satan is actually God, and the God of the Old Testament is a demiurge. And that comes from Marcion. Okay, so that's a Gnostic interpretation of Christianity. Demiurge is a moronic creator deity. So it is a stupider version of God that has to intercede between the immaterial world, think of Neoplatonism, and the material world. It's an intercessor, with the idea here being that the Old Testament God was the intercessor and Satan was the higher God. So if you look for representations of that, you'll find, the typical set, OTO, which is what Crowley did. And then you have your LaVeyan Satanists, who are a meme. They are hilarious. Anton LaVey is a hilarious fucking con man. It's beautiful, honestly, the way he was able to do that. It's just entertaining to me. So his whole biography was completely made up. Completely made up. Anton LaVey, that is. And his actual work, if you read it, background in philosophy and basic background, you can see, okay, he took some Nietzsche and some Rand, and, they had a rape baby together, and you have LaVey, right? That's what he did. He basically just patchwork of books, threw it together, put a fresh coat of paint on it, threw in some rituals so people could have some titties with their Satan, and you had a religion. Those rituals look interesting. You gotta let those chunky goth girls get their, attention from the sweaty, unkempt warlocks, right? So everybody wins in that circumstance, And you got a philosophy that says do what feels good as long as you can hurt people too, but just be smart about it, what it says. Ethical systems, not very straightforward. Of course, a lot of ethical systems aren't, including the one represented in the Bible. So, that is the bad news of your Dark Lord and Father Satan. So,
Macaulay, and began to identify himself with the beast from the book of Revelation, whose number is the number of a man, 603 score 6, 666. His mother, on the other hand, believed in the literal truth of the Bible, and would not have used this term lightly. It is clear that however much she rejected it, she probably forsook.
So the book of Revelation is really interesting. You look at the concept of Satan in Christianity, and it's not very well represented in the Old Testament. In fact, there's no mention really of Satan. The New Testament, it is there, but you don't have this Manichaean ideal where you have these two opposing forces that are doing battle. That now in the book of Revelation, which isn't accepted by all Christian sects, there are the Greek Orthodox who don't accept it. So you need to know that if you're a Christian and you believe that the end is coming, end times, okay, there are sects of Christianity that have been around as long as Catholicism that do not support the existence of that book. And they think there's too much emphasis on that. So, it's funny that he's drawing from this, but what I'm trying to say is there's really no devil figure. The devil figure became something mythologically entered into the religion organically, just like the saint worship of saints. It's not in the Bible, but it's really funny that you get fundamentalists who should absolutely, they're literalists, and they're seeing this figure that's not really represented there, that's as powerful as God, or at the very least is given a pass by God for some unforeseen purpose, which is always explained by theology. The answers to the problem of evil are never good. We don't believe it. We're not Leibnizian people here on this earth. We don't believe that this is the best of all possible worlds. At least the people I know don't. It's pretty silly. So if you're coming at this from a theistic perspective, it's quite bizarre. I don't understand how you would square that.
Or the destiny of her wayward son.
I now actually believe that I was the Antichrist of the apocalypse. And yet, she also believed that her poor, lost, erring son might yet repent and be redeemed by the precious blood.
Just after his father's death in 1887, they moved the family.
That's another quite bizarre aspect of Christianity, is the blood sacrifice narrative of Christ, okay? Which implies that animal or human sacrifice is required to appease that Sky Daddy. Like, if you legitimately enjoy the teachings of Christ, they're not unique to Christ. People were writing things along the same lines. You've got Zeno of Citium in the Stoic tradition. Frankly, we've got Socrates saying a lot of the same stuff. We've got Epictetus, and we've got Epicurus, right? So we have this huge Greek tradition, which also, by the way, is the language that the Old Testament's written in. It's not a coincidence, obviously. So the Old Testament's written in Chian Greek, and it has all these Greek ideas, right? Put in the mouth of a descendant of David, according to the false genealogy in the Gospels. So, you like the teachings of Christ, right? Just go read your ancient philosophy. Read your Marcus Aurelius. If you like the Pauline letters, read your Marcus Aurelius and tell me what the difference is. Except one guy is making an appeal to an amorphous god he doesn't really name, and the other guy is talking about Jehovah, right? And he comes from a Jewish culture. Well, one guy's a Roman emperor with historical backing, and the other guy's a pseudo-historical figure who's claiming to be God, at least according to the book of John. So, there are other options. That's what everybody loves, is the teaching of Christ. They really love that. Well, if you like that Cynic philosophy and the Beatitudes, you can preach Cynic philosophy. You do not need all the other nonsense. You don't need all the baggage. You don't need all the crimes that were committed in Christ's name and all that. And there are plenty of ethical systems. I mean, it's not unique to Abrahamic religions to have ethical systems. It happens to be the one that informs our culture because that's where we are. But, yeah, there's plenty of other religions that have different ways of deciding right and wrong.
From Red Hill to Thistlegrove in London to stay with her brother Tom Bond Bishop. Bishop did not believe the accusations made against Crowley by the Reverend Champney, and much to Crowley's delight, moved him away from the school. Bishop also recognized that the young Crowley's health was poor, and the doctor confirmed his fears when he diagnosed that Crowley would be unlikely to reach manhood. Bishop decided to keep the boy at home, and embarked upon employing a succession of private tutors over the next 2 years. He also resolved the boy's recovery required plenty of open-air exercise, including fishing and mountain climbing. Again, this delighted Crowley. Crowley had progressed rapidly in mathematics, English literature, Greek and Latin, and welcomed the freedom he had been granted in being able to read books which had previously been denied him. He became adept in poetry, and developed a yearning to become a great poet. Among the tutors that emerged, one Archibald Douglas taught Crowley not only English and maths, however. He also introduced him to the vices of racing, billiards, betting, cards, and on a trip to Torquay with Douglas, he was also introduced to the vices of women. It was on this trip at the age of 15 when Crowley lost his virginity to a woman he met in Italy.
The nightmare world of Christianity vanished at the dawn. The obsession of sin fell from my shoulders into a sea of oblivion. It was a period of boundless happiness for me.
All those Christian girls out there who suck dick like they're extracting the Holy Spirit, and all those Christian dudes that are fucking their side pieces. Just be honest about what you are. You can't practice what you preach. Preach what you practice.
Whilst being introduced to the sins of the flesh may have instigated a period of happiness for Crowley, it certainly had the reverse effect on his mother. No more so than when she discovered.
I was lucky. My parents were Buddhists. My mom was a communist, so I don't have a lot of this nonsense. I wasn't indoctrinated like some of you people from a young age. And all that can get out of it, more power to you. Because it's an obvious bullshit story, but when you have that cultural conditioning that says you got to be like this, and for you to break out of that then and know that your whole family's going to be disappointed, it's way different. See, we've got some free thinking in my family, I'll tell you that much. My uncle's a science teacher. He does not suffer fools gladly. He's way more caustic about religion than I am. I'm a little more tolerant, but as I get older, I guess can't tell if that's waning or if it's getting fixed. I don't know.
That whilst the family was away, Crowley had experimented further with a young parlour maid in his mother's bed. The maid was dismissed and put out on the streets, and according to Crowley, she changed her name and became a prostitute. He also claimed that she met a fateful demise at the hands of no other than Jack the Ripper.
Alright, so yeah, I mean, get the fuck out of here. And, you know, maybe she became a prostitute because she needed to earn money because you're a fucking asshole, you know, or your family's an asshole. You know, couldn't just pay her more, and just pay her extra for, you know, training the boy and, you know, what it's like or what to do.
In later years, Alistair Crowley would publish an article claiming that he had discovered the actual identity of Jack the Ripper, one Robert Dunstan, a black magician. Crowley claimed to a member of the press that he had in fact met with Dunstan prior to his death in 1912, and that Dunstan had given him 5 blood-soaked ties, corresponding to the 5 murders committed in Whitechapel. How much truth can be held in these claims is debatable. But one thing that can be claimed for sure is these were just 2 of the many sinister and strange coincidences that were to surround this iniquitous man for the rest of his life and beyond.
Well, after the business with the parlour maid, we sent him off to Melbourne Public School. But after only 3 terms, he came home with claims of being the victim of sexual abominations from other boys.
Well, that's not just a claim in the English school system. There's lots of ass fucking going on there. You know, every culture, I don't know what the rates of bisexuality are across the board, but I would think that it's more common than people like to admit. In the case of, you know, British boarding schools, yeah, that's definitely part of their reputation. I mean, just think about it this way. Think how common it was in Greece and Rome compared to a Christian culture that condemns it. But yet there's like tons of men on the down low, and you've always got that one guy who has his incessant homoerotic jokes, clearly expressing something, but he doesn't want to outright admit what he is because he's afraid his masculinity is going to be obliterated and he's going to lose his friends and his family and all that. So now, if you're a woman, it's to the point now where it's pretty accepted. It's part of modern society where it's pretty much not frowned upon, that's for sure. In some places I've heard, yeah, it's still a problem for some women too. If you have a really conservative family that's really stupid, that really doesn't know anything, then that's going to be a problem. But that's unfortunate. I'm sorry people have to go through that. But yeah, I mean, if you're out there and you're just be you and don't pay mind to any of this nonsense, because at the end of the day, the people that are buying into that old Christian morality and that very strange religion are idiots. So at the end of the day, fire them and find new people that are more accepting, smarter, better.
My sister Emily, of course, refused to send him back, and instead we found him a place at Tonbridge. He seemed happy there. He spent the summer fishing and climbing, and indeed he had regained his physical health. His moral well-being, however, was a different story. Being at Tonbridge for less than a year, he went on a trip to Glasgow and ended up contracting a sexual disease from a prostitute. Twice in disgrace, he was asked to leave school. We then sent to live with a Reverend tutor in East.
So he was pissing razors from a prostitute.
Where he attended day classes at the local school. This seemed more productive. In fact, his studies improved. He took up chess and excelled, winning many local championships.
That's a good game.
He had also become quite a proficient rock climber. And one of his favourite spots was Beachy Head, where he spent many days and nights camping and climbing. I think it was in 1894 when he joined the Scotland Club. and went on his first trip to the Alps.
In 1895, at the age of 20, the affluent Crowley went to Trinity College, Cambridge, to read moral sciences, taking rooms at number 16 St. John Street. It was also at this time that he decided to change his name from Edward to Alistair. He spent little time in the lecture halls and did most of his studying of English literature in his rooms, where he amassed a vast collection of books. He seldom ventured out of his rooms, other than to indulge in his love of chess. In his first year, he joined the University Chess Club, where he promptly triumphed over the club president. In the summer of 1895, he spent his vacation in the Alps, conquering the sole ascent of the Eiger. Crowley studied Russian and spent much of his vacation in the following summer traveling through Europe and on to St. Petersburg, as well as his favorite sojourn in the Alps. In the winter holidays of his second year at Cambridge, Crowley visited Stockholm, and it was there on New Year's Eve 1897 that something happened there.
Alright, so yeah, you get the point. He later on became a scion of excess and debauchery. So he's kind of a cult figure, but I don't think he's anybody to be particularly admired. His books aren't worth reading, to be honest. He's a nice troll, though, you know. But time for me to do something productive, like something writing wise. But yeah, that's Alistair Crowley.